Yeah, the application I'm using is a custom app. Um, I've used other mod managers in the past. I think I used Nexus Mod Manager. I haven't used Vortex, and then I used Mod Organizer too. Um, but part of the reason I wanted to do this, well, it was a couple reasons. Um, One, and this is just to give you a little bit of background on it. On the application I'm using and why you kind of see it a lot. Uh, is I wanted to make something that's open source that has all the information documented in the code, which would help somebody understand how data structures are formed and ways to process things like that. I also wanted to make it open ended, so and pretty extensible to where the average user doesn't have to code anything. They can literally select functions. There's so many functions in there that does so many different things, and you can put them in a script and call them. So in a sense, you can kind of the scripting is not very. It's pretty archaic. It works, but I have an idea on how I want to format that system because I want to keep it incredibly simple. Most things that I've seen can be broken down into pretty simplistic things. But just to kind of show you a little bit about it, um, so you can kind of see, this is the main application. So this is basically the mod manager, if you want to call it that. Um, and it's got all kinds of code in here. It's like 77,000 lines, but a lot of this is just things I haven't taken out. A lot of this is, like I say, documentation because I heavily document the code as to what it's doing, and that way, just an average person can take it when I finally get it released, and they can modify it. They can see how things work, and maybe give them some ideas on some things they've never done before. But this this mod manager is only it's a front end to all of these libraries, and these libraries are standalone. So you can incorporate these can be incorporated in other applications. I happen to just have them all linked into this because it's kind of my way of throwing every conceivable thing at the dartboard and hoping to goodness it all sticks. But this right here is a basic utility library that has all kinds of classes in here to do different things. Anything from something simple like loading language localizations to file manipulation to hashing, all kinds of stuff. I'll kind of show you here shortly. You have user libraries, which allow you to define user data that you can manage. That's the games library. It's responsible for opening and closing games and reading game configuration files and providing those data sets to other libraries or the main app. Same for load orders. So this library here, which is at about 16,000 lines, about 16.5K lines, is really designed to not only open load orders, but to read them, to parse them, to export, import, uh, sort. There's user defined sorting. It's not designed to replace other sorting apps, but it lets the user define their own sorting rules. Um, and it has the basic, sort after these. You have your own custom priority key. You define the key. There is a fixed part of the key, which is the order in which the plugins would normally be sorted, and then outside of that, it's a freeform key. So you make up your own key, and then everything, like you can have, like, your key can be AA, BB, CC. Um, and then you have the parsing utility for plugins. Now this uses what I wanted to do, and I always love trying to always for some reason pick the most difficult way to do things, but I wanted something that again was extensible. So I didn't want to hard code in this program, in this library, this DLL, the actual format of a plugin. That is actually kept in another file, and that is the same for a screenshot. The screenshot is broken down by fields, and then when I display a screenshot over here, I look up the fields and I basically parse that file. It's a file parser. So you tell it what the fields are, and then it parses them out. So when I open a plugin, if you go over here where you open a plugin, it actually will create a database based on the fields that you say exists. So if the first 2 bytes are, let's say the first 4 bytes are the magic number, which would be like TES3, TES4, then you would define that. And then when you want to parse that ESP, you simply give it the format. You point it to the format, and then it'll interpret, it'll read that format, and then break that apart. Now, what that allows me to do is take a text file and use a text file to define any data file I want. Now, embedded structures aren't in there yet, so I threw the most simplistic serialization down I could think of just to get it in there, and I am going to go back and fix it. But that will let the average person just say, like for example, there was a game I was playing, Baldur's Gate, and I could literally look at the data file and pick out the variables, which would be for like your level, your health, and things like that, and I could see the data blocks because they serialize the character data. I could then put that in a text file and then parse that out so I could print the data, modify the data, rebuild the data based on the format. And that's what that is. And it's the same for the BSA. Right now, the format I have only goes as far as being able to locate the name table and parse that out. So that's how I'm going to show you something else here shortly. Scripting is designed to provide a type of scripting that is text file based. Reporting, this is something I threw in here so I could get some of the reports out of the main libraries. Not sure what I'm going to do with this because I started moving some of the reports over to the libraries, like reports that deal with load orders. I want to put in the load order library so it's self-contained. And networking, this thing I wrote in about a week. I thought of it when I was at work, and I wrote it in about a week. I think one weekend I came home and I sat down and busted this thing out. So it basically is a packet server. So, and I broke it down in the most simplistic terms. So it doesn't matter whether it's a text message, it doesn't matter whether it's a data file, it's just data. It's a packet server. So it basically routes packets. And it doesn't do peer-to-peer because I didn't want to expose IP addresses to other users. Now, right now, it doesn't use HTTPS, which is secured because it was made to do locally. So what it was designed to do was, if let's say my daughter or my son likes to play Skyrim, and I've come up with a load order that I really like, I can send them that load order, and that application will take that load order from them and literally build that game based on whatever I say it needed, and then they can play it. So it's like a one-click build play kind of a system. So it's a packet server. That's what it is. You can chat with it. There's chat built into it. You can send files. You can do all kinds of things. You can set up repository files. So you can actually set up a series of repositories. In the file library, you can literally link different directories together outside of Windows, outside of Linux. So it has that built in to where you can literally say, all right, I'm going to extend this folder over onto this hard drive, this hard drive, this hard drive. So it provides an extension. It was pretty simple stuff. I mean, at least the way that I approached it is. So hopefully it all works. But to give you a quick example of what it is, all of this is just an interface. I look at it as a front end to something. All of these use the exact same drawing routine for their list. Exact same thing. So what it was is instead of having to hard code everything, I made a function that takes the data and puts it in a format. So in effect, I literally say, if it's a checkbox, give me checkboxes, right? Because this is all custom drawn, so I can't rely on the system to give me checkboxes. So that is how, if I hit a highlight key, I can highlight anything in all the lists because it's all the same. It's all the same draw routine. It's all the same thing. And all I'm doing is setting a bit that says highlight. So it's a front end, but it's a front end to what? So this, which I'm going to be working on here in about a week, I need to refine this. This is the front end to the networking library. It allows me to connect to a server. Remember, it's a packet server. And you can define what you want your packet server to do. You can say, I don't want to send files, I just want to chat. And if anybody requests a file, it'll tell them this is not a file server. So it's got a lot of things built in. It does the things that you would expect a packet server to do. But a lot of it needs to be tested, so I have to test this out. This is simply a front end into games. So here with Fallout 4, I can literally, if you take a look, so you can see where I can show certain things. Now this is not exact, because this right here, remove and delete, would actually remove and delete this item from this list. So this menu is kind of a generic menu. So this is not the final form of it. And this menu doesn't really match this list because you want to be able to execute or launch this application. I don't think you can do it over here because it's a DLL. But you can disable and enable these. And really all it does is it simply changes the file extension to disabled. You just don't see it because it knows it's disabled, but it shows you the actual name. But that's what this is. This is a front end. This right here is a front end to this menu system. So this menu system is defined by the user. You put in here what you want. So these are calling functions. Remember I talked about functions. So everything has a function. And like, for example, resource usage, that is this little window here. And it's just it was a way of putting in the program different uses of these forms, and the form system is built in. The form system, you can create your own forms over here. So here they can have their own submenus, their own type, size, names. That's what these are. So these have their own names and everything. This one particular form has a thread attached to it. So the thread actually looks for CPU usage and updates this data directly. This one over here is a form that you put a bit that says it's an auto update form. So for right now, it just simply redraws the form. So this form, this interface, or this front end looks at the structures for processes running, or threads, because this is a multi-threaded application. Almost everything runs on a thread. So if I go over to here and I'm going to launch a backup, so this again is defined over here. So if we look up backup, which is here, this backup right here, see backup, it's got downloads and all that. That is this menu you see right here. See, these three options are these three options right here. So you can put your own options in there. And basically what it does, it copies from a source to a destination. And those sources and destinations can be remote. So it can be a remote local server. It can be a remote server anywhere. And you can have password management. It actually has passwords management because when the library, when you go to what's the word I'm looking for here? When you go to map, what Windows calls mapping a drive, when you go to connect to a remote server, you can actually define the password to use for that remote server, and it will automatically do that for you. So it's kind of nice in a way because it's like I say, it's pretty extensible and configurable. So that's kind of like how that works. But what I wanted to show you is you can literally see up here how now there is another thread running. So this basically, and see how it updated it? See how I highlighted it, and then it's going to update it. This right here, so every time something runs, if I was to go over here and let's say, and there's certain things built into it, like this would redo the manifest, and you can see over here where it added. So all that is a front end to the thread database, because the threads are managed. Everything is managed. There's certain functions built in to manage the threads. So that's that. This is simply a front end or an interface into a list. That list happens to be a load order. And even though you put categories in here, it's just adding headers, what I'm calling headers, to the list, because a header is like a divider that has a title. And that's really all that does. Another example, I'll show you here in a second so it doesn't get too confusing. But remember, all this is a front end. This is a front end to the folders that make up my modded game. This is a front end to groups. This is not even functional yet. This is a front end to all of the masters and the plugin and the masters they require. So it's just a nice, easy way to look up here and say, oh, okay, the forest requires these masters. But there's another way you can do it. You can go over here, for example, and you can look up plugin has masters. And it will show you when it comes up, wherever it comes up. I guess that one doesn't have any masters, or it is definitely bugged. Let's see if I can find one that actually works. Let me see. Yeah, I'd say that one's definitely bugged. But what it should do, if it was to work, and I keep like shooting in the dark, what it normally should do is, I'd have to kind of debug it, is it would show you what masters I think requires that plugin. I'd have to look. I forget. There's a lot of stuff in here. So companion status. Okay, so I think what that does, it doesn't show the masters. That's what this function does. I believe plugin masters. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, sorry, that's my bad. So plugin master shows you. It basically shows you all the masters that a plugin uses. But I reverse that by saying what needs HUD framework, and that's what plugin has masters. So it looks like companion status requires HUD framework. So it's just a simple function, and I believe that's in the load order library. So I call it and dump up a report. So this is what I would consider a report. And if you notice, on the report, it looks exactly the same because it's a list. It has a header item. The header item defines the fields that's being displayed, and then the functions take the fields out of a data set and then just makes a report on it. So you can go in and change whatever fields you want to report on, and that is what this is. So over here you can see that there's many columns to this, but I can go over to here and I can switch. Is it the view? Which one is it? Is it the view here? It's one of these. Let's see. I haven't done this in a while. Let's see if that's it. It looks like it's the view. So so you can define different views and you can toggle between them, and that goes for pretty much all your lists. So you can see that I switch between that view, and we're going to go to a different view if this even works, if that's even what that is. Like I say, this thing is janky as I get out. Let's see. Pretty sure that was what it was. There we go. So I'm not sure why this is resetting itself, but you can see that it changed the view over to indicators. All right, we want to get back, because normally, like I say, it doesn't jank like this. Like this is one of the reasons I haven't actually done anything with it yet, because I'm still in the process of trying to debug all of these different things. So what I did is I defined different data sets I want to see, and I can flip between those data sets. And once this is done, and it may be because this is running, I don't know, like I say, this shouldn't really reset like this. But now we're back to this. So you can have as many as you want, and this allows you to have as small or as large of a window that, you know, like you can have, you can see as little data or as much data as you want. Um, let's see. This is not what I'm looking for. There is a way to is it that? There we go. So resize view is a way you can actually resize the main window. And again, those are function calls. So function calls do certain things, and when I click this button, and it's not really a button, but it has the appearance of a button. The behavior is that of a button. The behavior is that of a list, and you can connect lists. Now these are user programmable. These are not hard coded. So when I click on this button, I can throw up whatever, the user can put whatever image they want, whatever text they want, and they can call whatever function they want. They're defined like this. So I'm trying to come up with functions that can be used to do specific things, like back up a file. As you can see, this little interface here is simply an interface into the network copy. And network copy allows you to throttle, and it's basically, it's a very, very archaic way of being able to copy files and to throttle it down if it's bogging up your network. You can see there's no files being copied. This again is a little interface into animated icons. You just simply have an image, you say I want to scroll it in a circle, I want to scroll it left, scroll it right up and down. If you provide certain data, it puts a little bar graph in here. I can even have a terminate button if I want to cancel the copy. This is a front end to a folder, because this is a front end to a list. This is a front end to a folder that has folder names. So they're just lists, depending on how you want to process those lists. This, again, is a game save over here that I use a data file. It's just a text file that defines the fields of a screenshot and allows me to parse it. And that's what you see here. So if this window is open, when you click on one of these, it will actually instantly update that for you. It even updates it as you play the game, so that way it keeps you recent. You can lock stuff. I've locked these files so the application won't delete them. There's a downloading section which will show you when you're downloading files how much you have left, and it's a very generic way of doing things. This is a front end or an interface into the game log. It's a game log, and it actually records by load order. That's what this is over here. So it's a way of collecting metric data. They're color coded, going from green to red, depending on whether it works or it's total garbage. And again, these are function calls. So whenever, like let's say I want to see load order history, that's the same as this button here, but this button shows history for the current load order, which is what you see here. It goes by the name, or it will show you load order history based on whatever name is in the list, and you define that. So you literally can pass to these functions, you can pass parameters, and that's what this is. So this function is being passed parameters based on whether these are the managed download folder, this is the remote server I'm going to save it to, and that's the icon I want to use. Very simple format. And that's what all this is. So it's just an interface into the data. This right here is it's an interface into the data, but it allows the user to specify what they want to see. So for example, if I want to see suspended stacks, I go into this header, it's just a simple report header, and I tell it I want to see suspended stacks. And if it finds any suspended stacks in the game log, so these game logs are linked to a gaming session, right? So when I play the game, this game log all the way down here, now this game log comes from the actual Papyrus log. and I'm only keeping 3 papyrus logs, and it will roll the older entries out. I will try to remap them to make sure that I have access to it. So this is really going to change provided I have access to the logs. So if the logs disappear and this gets remapped, there may be nothing in here, or there may be just a handful of items. And to help organize it, it is by, you can see it's by the load order name. So this is the load order that I'm actually playing. And these are the game saves, or the session times, the log times. This is the game save time. So over here is the actual session time that I played. And then these would be the actual game save. So every time I save a game, one of these entries is made. So you won't be able to see it on that one because it doesn't go back that far. But you can take a look and say, okay, I want to see the game log data for the last game save that I made, and you literally can see the data that's in here. You can go in. There's another way you can this. So this will help you kind of look and see. Okay, something funky happened. What data is showing in the log without having to filter through all of it. You can see what game saves that type of data is saved. So you can see what game saves was involved during that entire play session, the sizes, the file names, and like I say, these things are automatically archived off. So there's only like you define how many game saves you want to have active. It renames them, and then it will archive them off. So they will literally get zip filed off, and then you can either keep them or you can get rid of them. And I believe you can see here where they're zipped. These are zipped. See, so this tells you the name of the zip file, and this is the game save that's in it. And I can go in and I can restore that file. Yeah, I can put that save back out there if I want. So I'm like, okay, I need to check this out. I can put it back out there. I also flag in the game saves if it's something that you're able to play. So, or if all the plugins that are required by that game, if they're there, or if there's some other weird issue. So you can take a look, and this is it's the same function as over here, right? So you're looking over here when you say like plugin masters, it's the same thing, but instead of going against a plugin, it's parsing the data out for the normal and light plugins, and I just changed it to required plugins. And you can see in there, and where it has little messages, these messages are not specific because it looks like a mod manager. Those are messages that you can put in database items, and it will automatically throw them up if you happen to scroll over it. But it'll show you which ones are missing, which ones are not active, so that way you can clearly see whether you're going to have a problem. And you can go in, let's see if I even have it in here. You can go in, I don't think I have it in the menu yet, but there is a function I just put in which will activate, let's see if it's over here. Yeah, there is, I don't know if it's load order from save, but one of these will actually activate and deactivate your current plugin list based on whatever's required. So therefore, because with Fallout 4 you can flag your plugins, this gives me the ability to have like let's say 50,000 plugins, but only so many active at a time, and then I literally can flip between different game saves to see like how they work, test different things out if I need to, or you can go over to here, and again you can have different load orders, and that's what these are. These load orders are here, and these are functions that are tied back to load orders. One of the things I put in here recently is graphing, so I can go up here and I can literally say, let's see, do I have it here? I don't see it there, but I do have it here. So in Crash History, I can go in and graph, like this, what you saw. I can literally graph the history, and this is just something simple. It's just a simple database. You provided a keyword and a total, and then it graphs it. That's what this is. So it's very open-ended, And you can clearly see, that's what I was showing you where I had this. This is the number of access violations I had. So you can see the metric data that way. Um, and there's another graph in here. I'm not sure where I put it right off. Yeah, I'd have to kind of think, because I do have a graph. I do have another graph. I'm trying to think, what did I do with that? I'm not really sure, but and then one thing I just added the past couple days was something called, and it's pretty simple. It's just something called issues, and all this is a way of adding XML tags to files. It's pretty simple, straightforward. I add tags to files, and as an example, the tag is simply a date. And then I can put a little message in here, and these go with the load order. So if I was to pass this load order on to you, you literally could load this load order up, and it would say these are the issues I'm having. And one of the things I added was the ability to attach different multimedia files. Very simplistic, nothing complicated. So I can go in and I can show attachments. And basically, show attachments takes a look at file names and passes those to a function. The function literally says, and you could do the same over here. You could go over to here. I'll show you in a second, but I'll show you. I got really weird bodies that are, I got like little, these are ghoul bodies that are invisible. So I kind of can click on it, make a reference, and then I can link it. I can go up here and I can link it to a particular message. I can go up here and I can attach a file, and that's what it does. So it attaches the reference, and then the files can be anywhere. It can be anywhere, remote server, local, you name it. But it's no different than going over here, and I provided a quick interface. This is mostly for testing, but you can go over here and you can just type in do function, and you type it in. You type in the function that you want, hit enter, and then it will try to execute it. So in this case, I had a debug thing set to catch it when the function was invalid, and that's what it did. So over here, you can see it doesn't really know what that is because it called the function and says, well, I don't really know what that is. And another thing you can do, like, so that's kind of like basically what it is. It lets you manage lists. You can shift things around. It won't let you move stuff back to where it came from. You can copy and paste. You can do a lot of things in here. This is a lot of work needs to be done. But what it does, it gives me the ability to look at the data and see if things are getting better, things are getting worse. It gives me the ability to manage the data. I can go in here to, let's say I want to, let's say I'm thinking Baka Papyrus is jacking things up, right? I can go in and disable it, and it now when I run my game, it's not going to load that DLL. Or I'm like, oh, you know what? I want to put it back in there. And again, enable and disable is simply a function that's being called, and it's passing that file name to it. So one function disables, and then I think the same function enables. It's a toggle kind of a situation. So it's just how you want to use. The tools are built in. It's kind of like how you want to use it, and that's what that is. This just simply, again, manages threads. So it just shows the active threads that are running. That's really all this does. Okay, so I'm going to cut this video short, and then I'm going to show you the data that I have on the crashes. Because you can literally see I've been playing for over a day without a crash. And these 3 crashes when I started a new game were strictly audio. And the only issues that I've got, if I look at them, I've only logged like 3 issues so far, and the audio crash was one that I logged, and then the ghouls having invisible textures, which I'm pretty sure that's a mesh issue or something, and then an ILS when fast traveling. Now I had an infinite load screen while fast traveling, and you can tell by looking at these if the time is very short. Like, let's see, like 1 minute 46, no, that's not what I'm looking for. And I do mean very, very short. It would be an ILS. One of these was like really, really super short. I thought it was in the seconds. Um, yeah, I don't really see it, but I know they're there. Unless it didn't record it, it might have. It should no, it should have recorded it even. Here we go. This one, that was probably an iOS or something. Well, as soon as I loaded in, I fast traveled or something weird. Um, but that's one of the issues I'm having. Now, what's interesting about that is I noticed after immediately when I loaded into my game, I don't know if a bunch of crap went down. I don't know what was going on. It may have been like a firefight or something. I'm not sure, but I saved. That save locked up. So I don't think it's an iOS because it can't load the data. I think something is happening when it's going to serialize the game save data. It's either getting stuck, it's getting deadlocked, or it thinks a script is running and it's not, and that script can't finish. So somehow it's hitting a deadlock situation, and therefore this save gets deadlocked and it freezes everything up. And I did notice that because when I actually manually did a save, a quick save, and it's not that a quick save is worse than a regular save, it locked up. And that's what happens because I do have save on when fast traveling. So whenever I fast travel, it's going to unload and load data. So that saves your previous location, and then it's going to move you to the new location. There's a save involved. Now, one way to test that is to turn those features off in the game and then run it and see if I still have the same problem. One of the things I do is I actually have this log over here keeps track of a lot of different things. And one of the things that the threading, it's the threading library, or it's the threading class in the utilities library, allows you to open threads. Remember, they're manageable threads. It actually runs what I call a thread watcher. That's this over here. And what it does, it watches. This is one of the things that will watch for unresponsive threads. So when I play the game, if I hit play, that calls a function which then launches the game based on the game's how the game data is configured, how you configure the game in the text file, the game configuration file. It's like a repository file. So it actually runs a thread watcher, and when it becomes unresponsive, it reports on that. So you can take a look at the last one I had, which was, let me see here. What I am looking for is text file, and what we're going to do is change this to, and this is again a function. I'm just calling a built-in function, and the built-in function will read a file, and what we're looking for is the log, which is here. Okay, so this is all it does. This is what this function does, and you define the form again over in your form definition. But you can actually see, you can do a search, and then you can see where it says unresponsive. So it was watching for the fallout. There's a task ID. It was unresponsive for a second here. It was, and I think that was the only occurrence. So normally when you save, when I save, you will see these. Now, when you have that long save problem, this number was way up there, and it happened a lot. So this is one thing you can look at. Now, it's configured. There's a configuration file that you define, and you say, okay, if the game is unresponsive for X number of seconds, kill it. Because sometimes Bethesda games has this real way of holding on to the screen even though you're trying to tab out of it. This will kill it and let you get back to your desktop. So that's kind of just a brief thing. It does a lot more than that, but that's kind of the gist of it, and I'm trying to get all this stuff tied together so that it works like it should and it makes sense. But the errors and stuff that I'm having, like I say, you can see that I played a day without a crash, quite a few different game sessions, and the 3 of the crashes were audio, which I'm not getting anymore, which, if you rule those out, only leaves the 1 crash approaching Ten Pines Bluff. And I think it loaded, I'm assuming it was loading one of the cells, but it was pre-culled because I was down on the railroad track, so I cannot see Ten Pines Bluff. So it pre-culled it. So I'm thinking it has something to do with that because it's random. It doesn't happen. The audio crashes happened all over the place. But I had what I think happened with that, and this is a guess. I think the reverb was set too high, and when you try to reverb, and you do this at a hardware level, or you're hitting the API at a hardware level, it's changing the sampling rate. It's playing around with the registers to where, and it actually killed the Windows X Audio API. This is not something Bethesda did. It killed the API. So there's got to be some tolerances that are being breached that the game engine doesn't account for, and it's allowing it to happen. That's what I think that was, because I haven't seen any since. I've encountered a lot of enemies, a lot of different things. And like I say, these, I'm pretty sure this one, well, this one, let's see, yeah, this one, and this one. Though these three right here, the one that's below this, and below this, those are, I'm pretty sure those are all the same thing, which leaves the this one here being unique. So if I rule these out as being, if I can rule these out as being a reverb, if you're reverbing reverb and it's changing the sampling rate and jacking everything out, um, or another way to look at it would be, because I remember Todd saying getting the different systems to talk together. And if you write multi-threading applications, that's really what you're doing, because you have different things doing different things and you want them to arbitrate access back and forth. So one of the things they have is an audio system, and you can send a message to the audio system, and these messages can have different functions. So it's possible that something is getting janked or deleted or removed, or something weird is happening, and that's why it's getting an access violation, because it's no longer there. It could I don't think it would be a malformed sound file, but don't quote me on it because I haven't seen the symptoms of it. But if I rule that out, if you add these up, you'll see this was 4 hours without a crash. That was fairly like 12 minutes, and then we're up to 5 hours, and now we're up to over 24 hours. So I'm hoping this trend continues, and I can just kind of keep playing it, and then just keep collecting the data. And because that's why you hear me say things like it may or may not be the mod, it could be other things. It may not be the total quantity of mods, because I've got 400 and almost 440 plugins in this thing. Let's see, yeah, conflicts. No. We're gonna look at available here. I've got let's see, where's our number? Our number is here somewhere. I'm totally blind to it. So there's 400 and, let's go down the bottom. This column, there's 764 mods in the game. And then you have on, let's see, archives, there is 366 archive files. So this gives me a little bit of a metric on that to show you. And the game is doing fine other than these initial crashes and this where it's locking up on a save. And it's intermittent. It's not something I can immediately reproduce. So not really sure what that is. But that's where all of this stands. And I won't even be able to touch this until probably starting Tuesday of next week. And then I can kind of get some free time and keep refining it and do other things. You can even check, just in closing here, just to show you an example, something I was working on, I think it was Friday and early this morning, is you can go in here and you can take a look at, it builds a conflict dictionary is what it does. And you can go in and take a look and say, like for example, you can see the files, and whether you show files or whether you show conflicts, you go in here and you can show conflicts for a particular file. You can see that this file right here was overwritten. That's what the red and the thing means. This means it's hard installed, but you can actually see where it comes from Fallout. It comes from HUD, and it's actually, so this HUD menu is being overwritten by it's being overwritten by a loose file. And then you can go in and take a look to see which mods have that file. So that's actually scanning this folder over here. So it's multi-threaded. So anyways, it's scanning this folder. It's scanning all these folders looking for this file. And it's going to show you the occurrences of that file, and then it's going to try to match that file up. Now it doesn't hash them out. It does it very basic. So there's a margin of inaccuracy there as far as matching files up, especially if they're small. But these are all the occurrences, and you can see the ones that are actually hard installed, and it tells you which mod they come from. So that way you can kind of see it and link the data back. So it's just, that's really all this is. It's just a way to manage the data, look at it and say, okay, I've got a problem. What can it possibly be? It's like somebody might say, oh, well, it's, for example, it's not HUD menu script, but it's like workshop script. I believe I think I mapped the function over here to like a search feature or something. And you can do like, we can see instances. Let's see if this will work. So we want to look for, well, let's try this. What's the worst that can happen? This is actually searching, so whenever you launch your application, it actually builds a giant dictionary of stuff, a dictionary of resource files. So it should give me every instance, if it works, if it works, it'll give me every instance of something that has workshop in it. And you can see that this particular workshop script PSC, now that's the source, that one's actually installed locally. And you can see where they're at and every occurrence of that. So that one right there doesn't quite use the same features as the show files over here, which will give you a mapping of whether whether they're being overwritten, whether they're installed, things like that. These are all hard installed. You can even a function you can double click. So you have double click is basically calling a show, and then show says, okay, you sent me a file. What is it? And then you define. It's not me that defines this. You define it in a text file. You say, oh, it's a DDS file. I want to use this application here to open it. It's the same for sound files, wave files. I don't know if there's any wave files in here, but you can call Windows Media. Now, sometimes it won't open these because it depends on the format. But I've got a few. I've got quite a few applications to develop, which will show the extensibility I built in beyond all of this. So there's even more to it. There's a lot more to it than just what you see. There's just a lot more. But I want to cut this short because it's probably going to be an hour long. No telling how big it is. And it's definitely probably the most boringest thing you've ever heard. But that's pretty much the application. Those are the errors I'm having. I won't be able to play it tonight. It's getting kind of late, and I do have to work tomorrow. So got to get that out of the way first. And then I can come back and play and have some fun with all this. So yeah, keep threading up the information on it, and we'll create a log, so if anybody ever does a search, they can see where other people have gone in and the troubleshooting steps they took, what worked, what didn't, just like a big repository of ideas, things like that. So yeah, have fun gaming, and I hope you're having a great new year.